If you know these 60 words, your English is excellent. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. First, let's see if you know these 15 idioms. You're going to learn these idioms as a quiz. You'll see a sentence on the screen with a blank, and you need to complete the idiom in 5 seconds. After you'll learn the correct idiom, you'll review an example sentence, and you'll listen to natives using that idiom. Are you ready? Question 1. At the beginning of our meeting, we shared our favorite food to break the ice. To break the ice. This is an idiom that means to have conversation or activities to overcome initial awkwardness or tension when people are meeting for the first time. For example, you can share your favorite food or play a little game to break the ice. Now remember that idioms are words in a fixed order that have a non-literal meaning. Because they're in a fixed order, you cannot say we broke ice. That isn't correct. You can't say we broke an ice. That isn't correct. And you definitely can't say we broke ice cubes. You must say we broke the ice. And of course, here your verb to break is conjugated in the past simple. Don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description.
It was just break the ice and now let's have some fun, you know. Yeah.
I shake some hands, I break the ice and make small talk about their backgrounds. I take a genuine interest in the people.
Question 2. Great job with the presentation. You knocked it out of the park. To knock something out of the park. This is a fun idiom. It means to do something exceptionally well. So you can use this to compliment someone. For example, the team knocked it out of the park with their innovative product launch. Now notice how I used it before I specified the something, which was the innovative product launch. You can do it the other way and say the team knocked the product launch, the something, the team knocked the product launch out of the park. The team did exceptionally well. So hopefully you're thinking this lesson is amazing. Jennifer knocked it out of the park. Of course, the it is this lesson. So do you agree? Am I or did I knock it out of the park? If you agree, put that's right, put that's right in the comments.
Whatever it is, you knock it out of the park because you're educated at this great college.
Traditional public schools knock it out of the park in many places. My guess is they'll continue to thrive, the ones that are good.
Very rarely is your first movie going to knock it out of the park.
Question 3. I was offered my dream position, but if I accept it, I have to move to another city away from my family. I'm between a rock and a hard place. Did you get this one? To be between a rock and a hard place. This means to be faced with two difficult or undesirable options. He's between a rock and a hard place, having to choose between a promotion and moving to a new city. So notice how I used the idiom first and then I identified the two undesirable or difficult options. You could also say, I'm between a rock and a hard place. If I tell the truth, it could hurt my friend. So the other option is implied. You tell the truth or you don't tell the truth.
They were caught between a rock and a hard place, and they ended up choosing the hard place.
Really between a rock and a hard place. And to find that officers sometimes make mistakes, I think is understandable. It's to be expected.
They're between a rock and a hard place in economic policy.
Question 4. The party is on Saturday, but it's a surprise. Don't spill the... Don't spill the beans. To spill the beans, this means to reveal a secret or disclose information unintentionally. So for example, I accidentally spilled the beans because it's not intentional. I accidentally spilled the beans about their engagement. I didn't know it was a secret. Or you could reassure someone, your secret is safe with me. You know, I won't spill the beans. I won't reveal your secret.
And he would try to get kids to spill the beans on the family, you know, like my mother's pregnant, my daddy doesn't know.
The authorities thought if he was tortured, he might spill the beans, but there weren't any beans to spill.
If you don't spill the beans now, we're gonna finish this talk down at the station.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Question 5. You don't have to work tonight and miss your party. I was just pulling your... I was just pulling your leg. To pull one's leg, your leg, this means to tease or joke with someone in a playful way. For example, to joke with your coworker, you could say, the boss wants us to work late tonight and organize all the boxes in the storage room. And your coworker could reply back and say, seriously? That will take hours, and I have tickets to Taylor Swift. And then your coworker can say, I'm just pulling your leg. You're teasing your coworker. Enjoy the show.
I was just pulling your leg.
Pressed his nose up against mine, gave me this evil smile and said, I was just pulling your leg.
I was just pulling your leg. I pull stuff up all the time.
Question 6, I got Taylor Swift tickets. Cloud 9. I am on cloud 9 because this expression is to be on cloud 9, which means to be extremely happy. He's been on cloud 9 since he got engaged. Remember to conjugate that verb to be. The team was on cloud 9 after winning the championship game.
I'm on cloud 9, yes! And then guess what? Does it last?
Yeah, I think that, honestly, I'm still kind of on cloud 9 from Sunday when Aquafina won.
As you can imagine, I was pretty much on cloud 9 then.
Question 7, the client didn't like the proposal, so we have to start from scratch. To start from scratch, this means to start from the very beginning. So you have to do it again. For example, my computer crashed and now I have to start from scratch because you lost your entire project. Or you could say, I started learning English from scratch last year or 3 years ago, from the very beginning. Hello, how are you? The very beginning.
So I guess you're gonna have to start from scratch.
So they had to start from scratch.
Macmillan most recently had to start from scratch.
Question 8, as the project manager, Jane calls the when it comes to the timeline. Jane calls the shots, a great position to be in. To call the shots means to be in control. This is my house, I call the shots. Or if someone is new to a team, they might ask, who calls the shots around here? Who is in control?
Well, then you're destined to have the existing power structures
call the shots.
Instead, pharmaceutical companies call the shots. The FDA effectively allows them to monopolize drugs via patents.
If I get the chance to call the shot, we're not going to be this stupid.
Question 9. Since this is the first time you missed a deadline, I'll let you off. I'll let you off the hook. To let someone off the hook, this is a relief because it means to be released from responsibility, punishment, or a difficult situation. So you are not going to punish the person even though they did something wrong. I can work late tonight and finish the proposal. You're off the hook. You're relieved of that responsibility. Or perhaps, if I let you off the hook, you have to promise to never do it again.
God, I don't want to let him off the hook.
That may be hard to swallow, but it also means we're off the hook. It's not my fault the way I feel.
Now, sales does not get off the hook with this process.
How are you doing so far? Question 10, the flight was delayed because of the weather. There's no use crying over spilled milk. To cry over spilled milk, this means to be upset about something that can't be undone or fixed. For example, the client fired us because we missed the deadline. Let's not cry over spilled milk. Let's make sure this never happens again. Or you could say, the client didn't let us off the hook. Instead of crying over spilled milk, getting upset over something we can't change, let's brainstorm how we can improve.
Because it's too late to cry over spilled milk.
So I can cry over spilled milk, or I can do what I need to do, and I'm going to do what I need to do.
It's like the old saying, don't cry over spilt milk. It's a little thing.
Question 11, I finally the bullet and organize my taxes. I finally bit the bullet. Did you get the correct verb conjugation? The idiom is to bite the bullet. Bit is the past simple. And this means to do something unpleasant or difficult that is necessary. I must do my taxes. For example, I hate filing paperwork, but I'll just have to bite the bullet. I have to do it anyway. Or the garage is a mess. Let's bite the bullet and clean it up this weekend.
So I thought, bite the bullet, don't put a voice in there.
Wish they would have the courage to simply bite the bullet and tell us the truth.
I'm just going to bite the bullet and reshape the butter block because that's the right thing to do.
Question 12, we're going to hot water when the boss finds out we didn't send the proposal. We're going to be in hot water, which means you're going to be in trouble. After forgetting his anniversary, John found himself in hot water with his wife. Or the company violated safety protocols and is now in hot water.
The captain flashed his, "You're in hot water now, look."
She made sure both he and his tech ended up in hot water.
His company Tesla has already been in hot water this year.
Question 13, stop beating around and just tell me the final price. Stop beating around the bush. This means to avoid the main issue or topic. So it means to speak indirectly. And we usually do this if the topic is sensitive or awkward. But you might tell your friend when you ask your boss for a raise, don't beat around the bush. Ask your boss directly. Be direct. Or you could say, after beating around the bush for 10 minutes, talking indirectly about the main topic, he finally asked me out, which means he asked me on a romantic date.
If you beat around the bush with people, they'll say, well, I'll give you a small gift or something. No, I really need your help.
Big help.
Let's not beat around the bush. You know you've thought about it, and today we're going to answer it.
There's no need to beat around the bush here. Your preview just needs to tell your reader exactly what you have in store for them.
Question 14, everyone in California on the bandwagon and learning how to play pickleball. Is jumping. The idiom is to jump on the bandwagon. And this means to join, support, or start doing something because it's popular or trendy. For example, I jumped on the bandwagon and learned how to make the famous Dubai chocolate bar. This sounds like I learned how to make it simply because it's popular or trendy right now. You could also say many companies have jumped on the influencer bandwagon. So notice here I'm using an adjective, influencer, to describe the bandwagon. So they know the topic of popularity or trend. Influencer.
The success of one film or genre inspires others to jump on the bandwagon.
We're kind of hoping to jump on the bandwagon that drags it back the other direction.
Not a good time to jump on the bandwagon.
Question 15, influencers are a dozen these days. A dime a dozen, which means very common. It can also mean inexpensive or easy to find. Now keep in mind, this sounds negative because it implies a lack of uniqueness or special value. For example, nowadays, pickleball teachers are a dime a dozen. They're very easy to find. Everyone is a pickleball teacher because everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, the pickleball bandwagon. Or you could say talented singers are a dime a dozen in this competition. Everyone is a talented singer. So you really need to stand out to win. You need to do something more than just sing beautifully.
Investors know that ideas are a dime a dozen, but execution is what really matters.
Cocktail consultants are a dime a dozen, and they come and put together menus, and there's not really a bar manager necessarily doing that.
Now let's see if you know these 15 binomial pairs. Question 1. Thankfully, the speech wasn't long. It was short and... It was short and sweet. Did you get this one? Short and sweet. Notice that pronunciation. We take that and, but we just pronounce it short and sweet, short and sweet. So you pronounce it like one word. This means concise, so without unnecessary details. Note that this binomial pair is used positively. For example, in meetings, the meeting was short and sweet, so we had time to grab a coffee. Or someone might say before a discussion, conversation, meeting, let's keep this short and sweet. Now let's listen to some real world examples.
So that's it, short and sweet for me.
Keep it short and sweet.
Okay.
I'm gonna make this short and sweet. But seriously, Ellen, congratulations on the 20th anniversary of announcing to the world who you really are.
Question 2, she put her and soul into writing her first book. The binomial pair is heart and soul. Again, notice that pronunciation, heart and soul. This is one's full dedication, passion, or energy. I hope my students, you, see that I put my heart and soul into my lessons. You could say, I put my heart and soul into learning English. Do you put your heart and soul into it? If you do, put that's right in the comments. Now let's listen to some real world examples.
I think it's partly because of the heart and soul underneath.
And he put his heart and soul into it, and eventually that's what happened.
Lucier had poured his heart and soul into that collection.
Question 3, call me when you get home so I know you're safe and... safe and sound. This means unharmed and in good condition. You might say, despite the accident, the passengers were safe and sound. You can also use this to mean to be cautious. For example, just to be safe and sound, just to be cautious, just to be safe and sound, let's double check the figures before submitting the report. Now let's listen to some real-world examples.
If you don't want them in the story, then just keep them at home, safe and sound, and then move on to something worthy of telling.
No, all my data is safe and sound.
We keep them safe and sound.
Question 4, she enjoys the and bustle of living in New York City. The hustle and bustle. Notice that T is silent. Hustle and bustle. Hustle and bustle. This means busy, noisy, or chaotic, and we use it as a situation. You could say there was so much hustle and bustle leading up to Taylor Swift's concert. I'm sure you can imagine that. Now let's listen to some real-world examples.
Devoid of the hustle and bustle of the city, Port Aransas offers visitors a tranquil beach area where you can soak in the sunshine and let go of your worries.
So there's all this hustle and bustle going on for the big unveiling.
When you're lifted above the hustle and bustle of daily life, your sense of self fades away and you feel connected to a higher reality.
Question 5. After all that hustle and bustle, I rented a cabin in the woods for some and quiet. For some peace and quiet, peace and quiet. This represents calm, the opposite of hustle and bustle. After a busy work of traveling, she needed some peace and quiet. Or you could say, I love visiting my family, but I also miss the peace and quiet. Now let's listen to some real-world examples.
Visitors can wander the winding paths or simply relax and enjoy the peace and quiet.
If you go looking for peace and quiet, you very quickly find out there isn't any.
A lot of people come here over and over for the peace and quiet that you get out here.
How are you doing so far? Question 6. The two athletes were necking in the race. They were neck and neck, neck and neck. This means they were in a close contest with no clear leader. We commonly use this with elections. The election was neck and neck until the last votes were counted. We use this with companies competing. Our companies were neck and neck until we launched a new website. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Originally, results showed Morales in a neck-and-neck race with his opponent Carlos Mesa.
It is neck and neck between the 7 different teams, battling it out through a really complex assault course.
Number 3, Venezuela, Honduras, neck and neck.
Question 7, you have to help your cousin. He's your and blood. He's your flesh and blood. This means related by blood or a family member. Of course, you'll always have a place to say, you're my flesh and blood. Or someone could say, a family member could say, I'm happy to loan you the money. You're my flesh and blood. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
They're made of flesh and blood the way we are. This kid, my flesh and blood, I wanted to imprint her with all of my best values and none of my bad habits.
It's because we're flesh and blood. We're biological creatures.
Question 8, sorry I missed your call. I was out and all afternoon. I was out and about, out and about. This means that you were active and going to different places outside of home. You might say after being sick for weeks, it's so nice to be out and about again. In this case, it's an adjective. You can also use this if you want to be purposely vague about where you were. So if someone asks you, where were you? You can reply back and be vague and say, oh, just out and about. In this case, it's a noun. Now let's listen to some real-world examples.
I love seeing all the animals out and about in the snow.
When I'm out and about, it's in my purse.
Anything that you've noticed out and about that you're like, huh, didn't expect that to happen.
Question 9, he promised to take me to the airport, but then he left me high and... high and dry. This means to be left in a difficult situation without help. The company's closure left many employees high and dry. Or my car broke down and left me high and dry in the middle of nowhere. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
But after the Soviet Union fell in 1991, Cuba's economy was left high and dry.
So what do you do then if you're left high and dry?
Shellfish and seaweeds, which were normally near the water, were now high and dry.
You're doing such a great job. Question 10, learning English has its and downs. It has its ups and downs. This is, of course, periods of positive, the ups, perhaps success or happiness, and periods of negative, the downs, failure and sadness. This is commonly used as comfort to someone. So perhaps your friend could let you know that they're having difficulties in their relationship, and you can say, all relationships have their ups and downs. You'll get through this. So you're using this to offer comfort. Or you could say, I'm so sorry you lost your job. Remember, the company left you high and dry. I'm so sorry you lost your job. Life has its ups and downs. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
But you talk so much about the ups and downs of your career. What made you want to make yourself so vulnerable with the audience?
You're going to have ups and downs in your career.
No matter what has happened in my career, ups and downs, I always can go back and I end up falling into a wonderful show.
Question 11, first and we need to establish trust. First and foremost. This means most importantly or before anything else. Commonly used when you're giving a speech or starting a lesson, starting a conversation, a meeting. First and foremost, we need to review the budget. First and foremost, make sure you subscribe so you're notified when I post a new lesson. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
First and foremost, stop signs are octagon, 8-sided, very prominent.
They are first and foremost a hunting dog.
I'm first and foremost committed to my responsibilities as the Senate Majority Leader right now.
Question 12, I'm the client, so it's my way or the... or the highway. Our first pair with or, my way or the highway. This is an ultimatum, meaning you must agree to my demands or you leave. It's my way or the highway when it comes to this project. So if you're not willing to do things my way, then you're fired or you can quit, you can leave. Or you could say to your cousin, I know we're flesh and blood, but if you're living in my house, it's my way or the highway. Follow my rules or move out, leave. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
I mean, if the basic proposition is it's my way or the highway, then we're probably not going to get something done because we've got divided government.
Very simply, what I did was I said it's my way or the highway. I'm going to write the IEP. You're going to do everything my way.
We must put aside our my way or the highway pride.
Question 13, it's my wedding and I want to keep it no muss. No fuss, no muss. No fuss, no muss. This means simple and without any trouble or complications. To understand this, you need to know what a fuss means. A fuss is a show of emotion that is unnecessary or greater than the situation deserves. For example, she made a big fuss about the deadline in front of the client. But remember, this binomial pair is no fuss, no muss. Let's hope the meeting goes well with no fuss, no muss. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
No fuss, no muss, no dealing with trying to plunge anything to the bottom. It's just done.
One pan, no fuss, no muss, and everyone's gonna love it.
Monthly fees for music or movie streaming services are touted as a no fuss, no muss way to pay for content.
Question 14, the prize is yours. You won the game fair and... fair and square. This means honestly, without cheating or trickery. For example, they suspected she cheated, but it turns out she won the competition fair and square. She didn't cheat. Or she's the boss's flesh and blood, related to the boss, but she earned the promotion fair and square. She deserved it. Now let's listen to some real-world examples.
And success doesn't count unless you earn it fair and square.
He won this debate fair and square.
There's things we won. Fair and square.
Question 15. You won't improve your English skills overnight, but you will see improvements step by step. Step by step. This means gradually in small stages, or one stage at a time. The team worked through the problem step by step. In this case, it's an adverb. You could also say she provided clear step-by-step instructions. Notice this comes before a noun, instructions, so it's an adjective. Now let's listen to some real-world examples.
Here are some step-by-step instructions.
It would give them a predictable, step-by-step guide for how to better their chances at a green card.
Brick by brick, inch by inch, step by step. That is how all great things are achieved.
Now let's see if you know these 15 phrases. Question 1, in a second, everything changed. The correct answer is B, in a split second. This means very quickly or in an extremely short period of time. For example, I can't believe we were robbed. I was only gone for a split second. So to emphasize the very short period of time. Or you could say we made the decision in a split second. This could be a positive thing or a negative thing.
In a split second, he changed my life.
And in a split second, I had to make a decision.
He is going to get her, and a split second won't even stand between our union. That's how much he loves and longs and yearns to have his bride.
Question 2, learning English with Jennifer is a real game. The correct answer is D, game changer. This is something that significantly alters the course or outcome of a situation. So what do you think? Do you think that learning English with Jennifer is a real game changer? It significantly changes how you learn English for the better? If you do, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. You could say that AI is a real game changer. Notice here I'm using real to emphasize. Or you could say electric cars could be a game changer for the environment.
It's a game changer when you're able to find the deep hidden stories that people are not sharing that can really unlock potential.
This is a game changer. Real game changer.
I can definitely see how that is a game changer because once it's commercially available, it will definitely change our lives.
Question 3, our project is in full. The correct answer is A, in full swing. If something is in full swing, it means it's at a stage when the level of activity is at its highest. For example, the party was in full swing, the most active, the most entertaining when we arrived, which is a great time to arrive. Or you could say, now that the project is in full swing, we're at our highest level of activity, we can hire more consultants.
But then, to be fair to Carter, once it's in full swing at Camp David, it's a different thing.
You know what else is in full swing are the Summer Olympics. After a year of waiting, they finally launched.
The 78th United Nations General Assembly is in full swing today.
Question 4, we need to complete the project by the book. This means by following established rules or procedures precisely. Everything they tell you to do in the book, the procedures, the rules, the manual, you do. For example, Jane does everything by the book. She follows every rule precisely. You can also use the verb to go and say Jane always goes by the book. Or you can use this as an adjective and say Jane is a very by-the-book person.
And so while I don't think I'm gonna stay as like a vegan by the book, I do plan to continue.
I will do it by the book, by the plan that God has ordained.
Everything else, it's gotta be completely by the book, completely cookie cutter.
Question 5, there's a line between confidence and arrogance. The correct answer is A, a fine line. This means that there's a small or subtle difference between two things, confidence and arrogance. For example, there's a fine line between being persistent and being annoying. You can easily cross from one to the other. We also commonly use this with the verb walk. I have to walk a fine line between being friendly and being professional. So if you walk a fine line, it means you have to find a balance between these two things that can be easily confused.
There is only a fine line that separates us from one another.
But understand that there is a fine line between being a high achiever and a perfectionist.
Yeah, I think that the government walks a fine line when it gets involved in issues like that.
How are you doing so far? Question 6, you can't complete the entire project tonight. You need to yourself. You need to pace yourself, B. This means you need to control your speed or effort, but you're doing this to avoid exhaustion, becoming too tired before finishing a task. Because if you're exhausted, you won't finish. You might say pacing yourself, using that gerund expression, pacing yourself is key to working effectively because you need energy throughout your entire work period. Or you could say if you had paced yourself, the third conditional, if you had paced yourself, you wouldn't have burned out, become so exhausted that you could no longer work.
So what you need to do is you need to pace yourself.
But you need to pace it at a rate that they can receive it.
She said, pace yourself. I'm gonna need you later.
Question 7, she tends to a grudge for a long time. D, hold a grudge. This is when you maintain negative feelings, a grudge, negative feelings, towards someone for something that happened in the past. We often use this in the negative. You shouldn't hold a grudge against your cousin. Or you could say it's hard to work with him because he holds a grudge over the smallest things.
Like I said, the dude knew how to hold a grudge.
You can never hold a grudge in Silicon Valley. Just always smile and say, I'll take your check. Thank you very much.
Nobody's upset.
She doesn't hold a grudge, and neither do you.
No.
Question 8, I had a, she would get the promotion. A, I had a hunch. This is a feeling or intuition about something without concrete evidence. For example, I had a hunch, I had a feeling the flight would be canceled, but there was no concrete evidence. Or you could say, I always trust my hunches.
Do you have a hunch that someone likes you?
I don't know why, but I have a hunch about you. You seem like you're going to be a really good waffle maker.
I mean, I think I do have a hunch that this misallocation point is quite important.
Question 9, you've made your, now let's move on. D, you've made your point. This means you've expressed your opinion or perspective. For example, he made a point about the importance of teamwork. So he expressed his opinion, perspective, or argument. Or you could say, you made a great point in the meeting today.
First of all, you make a point about Medicare that's very important.
We would all make a point, and for somehow or other, you and I always agreed.
I wanted to make a point.
Question 10, Uncle Bob really pushes my... He pushes my buttons. This is to provoke or annoy someone intentionally on purpose. Someone might say, I know he pushes your buttons, but you shouldn't hold a grudge. Or you could say, I don't know why, but Steve really pushes my buttons.
It's because this really pushes my buttons, and I haven't learned these skills yet.
Probably injustice is what pushes my buttons.
A person, someone who pushes your buttons.
You're doing such a great job. Question 11, much to my flight was canceled. Much to my chagrin. Repeat after me, chagrin, chagrin. This means to one's disappointment or regret. You could say, my husband doesn't like jazz, much to my chagrin. So you're expressing your disappointment, perhaps because you love jazz. Notice here, it came at the very end. You can start a sentence with this and say, much to our chagrin, the client changed the project timeline. I'm very disappointed.
Now, much to our chagrin, the United States doesn't have uniform elections laws, and there's a reason for this.
Much to our chagrin, productivity has stopped growing rapidly and is back to about 1.5% a year.
So much to my chagrin, I spent the next week studying.
Question 12, I hope the movie lives up to the hype, the hype. If something lives up to the hype, it means it meets expectations or delivers as promised. So this is the expectation and this is the reality. So you could say the movie lived up to the hype, met our expectation, delivered as promised. Or you could say the movie didn't live up to the hype, much to our chagrin.
Past trade deals didn't always live up to the hype. Past deals didn't always live up to the hype.
The big question I have is, can it live up to the hype?
Question 13, the company is on the of a major breakthrough. On the precipice. Repeat after me, precipice, precipice. This is when you're about to do something that may have a lot of success or a lot of failure. For example, he's on the precipice of a big decision about his career. This decision could bring a lot of success or a lot of failure. You could say, I started my business on the precipice of a recession.
You know, Massachusetts was just on the precipice of having nice springtime weather, and then Mother Nature was like, psych!
Standing on the precipice of possibility, we pause to be present to this very moment.
We were on the precipice of a disaster, as I understand it.
Question 14, the competition is gaining. We need to take things up a notch, a notch. This means to make something more intense, more advanced, more exciting. For example, let's take this project up a notch by adding more features. That will make it more exciting. Now, we commonly use the verb kick. Let's kick this up a notch.
Today, I think I'm going to take things up just a notch.
We're there, but we need to take it up a notch.
They kicked that up a notch too, by the way.
Question 15, she gave us a peek of her new song. A sneak peek. This is a quick or early preview of something not publicly available. For example, the director gave the media a sneak peek of the movie before its official premiere. They saw a small part, but not the full thing. Or the company shared a sneak peek of their new product at the trade show.
Here's your sneak peek without the top, of course.
I'm going to give you a sneak peek at where we're going in the next 8 weeks.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little sneak peek.
Now let's see if you know these 15 collocations. Question 1, he promised he wouldn't lie, but he decided to his promise. The correct answer is B. To break a promise. This means to fail to do what one has promised to do. 5 years ago, I promised to post a new English lesson every week on my YouTube channel, and I haven't broken that promise. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
If I break a promise, I have done something wrong, even if the consequences of breaking the promise are slightly better than the consequences of keeping the promise.
You break a promise with God, you're sinning.
And we'll break our promise. It doesn't really matter.
Question 2, a great handshake can leave a impression. The correct answer is A. A lasting impression. This is an effect, feeling, or memory that remains in one's mind for a long time. So hopefully, after this lesson, you might say, this lesson left a lasting impression on me, which means you remember all these new collocations, the pronunciation, and everything you've learned. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
And the thing that left a long-lasting impression on me was how the people I met in South Africa could envision a better future for themselves and their country.
Now that's honesty and integrity, and it's also why Faye's performances left such a lasting impression.
A simple act of kindness can make a lasting impression and make a huge difference in a person's life.
Question 3, she has a workload this month and needs extra help. The correct answer is C, a heavy workload. I hear a lot of students say a big workload, but the correct collocation is heavy, a heavy workload. And of course, this is a large amount of work. You might say it's hard to study English because of my heavy workload. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
How does she juggle all that heavy workload and be president of the sorority?
The number one hindrance to good teaching is heavy workload.
It's definitely been a pretty heavy workload.
Question 4, after finishing the project, she finally has a workload. The correct answer is C. The opposite of heavy, which means big, is light, which means a small amount of work. So hopefully you say, now that I have a light workload, I can watch all your lessons. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
The workload was so light to do compositor-based operations compared to doing layout and paint that we can now fit it comfortably inside the 60 frames a second budget.
To lighten your workload.
Question 5, to succeed, you need to be proactive and initiative. The correct answer is A, and take initiative. If you take initiative, it means you're the first to take action to achieve a goal or to solve a problem. For example, he took initiative to find a speaking partner, and that's exactly what you need to do. There are people everywhere who want to practice speaking, but you need to take initiative to find one. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Who are going to take initiative, not just do the minimum daily requirement.
People expect you to do things on your own here. They expect you to take initiative.
They're thinking, that person doesn't take initiative. I guess they're not really a leader.
How are you doing so far with this quiz? Question 6, the campaign started slow, but began to momentum. The correct answer is B, to gain momentum. This means to progress or move forward at an increasing pace. As my English fluency and confidence grew, I gained momentum in my career. So your success in your career increased at a faster and faster pace. That's what Fluent English can help you accomplish. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Now, as SPACs gain momentum, more blue-chip institutions and veteran investors are buying in.
Slowly but surely, we began to gain momentum.
We gained momentum by using the cupcakes for this documentary, which was one of the clips that I showed earlier.
Question 7, her speech had an impact on everyone in the room. The correct answer is C, a profound impact. This means a very significant or deep impact. You might say, my childhood teacher had a profound impact on my English skills. You still remember those important lessons from your teacher today. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Words are that powerful. They not only affect your interior psychology and your identity, they have a profound impact on the world around you.
It's something so simple and yet has such a profound impact.
So you don't have to know someone well to have a profound impact on them.
Question 8, in order to pass the inspection, our products need to standards. The correct answer is B, to meet standards. If you meet a standard, this means you reach the expected level of quality or requirements. This is often used with products or services. All products must meet safety standards before being sold. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
How often do judges not meet standards?
And we're going to close places that don't meet standards and which are harmful to people.
They don't have to meet standards, and that is very, very dangerous.
Question 9, the proposal was accepted by a majority of the team. The correct answer is A, an overwhelming majority. This means a very large percentage or proportion. There isn't a specific number, but I would personally say it would be 75% or more to be considered an overwhelming majority. Maybe an overwhelming majority of students, 75% or more, prefer learning English online. What do you think? Let's listen to some real-world examples.
The overwhelming majority, they work really hard doing really important stuff.
And the overwhelming majority said no.
And many Nebraskans, I believe, an overwhelming majority, believe the death penalty is a part of that public safety focus, of which I firmly believe in.
Question 10, we had a discussion about the project challenges. The correct answer is C. A frank discussion is one that is open, honest, and straightforward. For example, we need to have a frank discussion about the client's expectations. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Having frank, detailed, and honest discussions on how you'll handle joint versus solo finances will guarantee that there won't be any surprises once you're married.
And I thought it was a good and useful and frank discussion.
And so our focus is on having a frank discussion, raising issues where we have concerns, and of course looking for ways and places where we can work together.
You're doing a great job. Think of everything that you're learning. Let's keep going. Question 11. He decided to responsibility for his actions. The correct answer is A, to take responsibility. This is when you accept responsibility. For example, you could be frank, you could be honest and open and straightforward, to be frank, and say, I take full responsibility for the project delay. This is a very mature thing to do. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Training Afghan forces to take responsibility for their own security.
He said, someone, you, has to take responsibility.
We must take responsibility now for our role in this crisis, a crisis in which the origins can be traced back to the onset of the Anthropocene era.
Question 12, the board will approval for the new policy next week. The correct answer is B, to grant approval. This means to officially agree to or allow something. The team needs to wait until the director grants approval. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
The Queen must grant her approval before the gown can even start being made.
He added the ministry will quickly grant approval if companies apply for an extension in working hours to expand domestic production.
Question 13. Both parties finally reached an agreement. The correct answer is A, a mutual agreement. This is one that all people involved, there could be 2 people, 5 people, or 12 people, but all people involved accept. We reached a mutual agreement to reduce the budget. Everyone agreed, yes, let's reduce the budget. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
It's a mutual agreement in a group that you will put the welfare of the group, you will put the safety of everyone in the group above your own.
And we talked about issues by mutual agreement. That practice helped me a great deal because I came to understand Ronald Reagan.
This mutual agreement between the parent and child was a really nice cooperative strategy, but somehow it just wasn't working for them.
Question 14. The project had an influence on the younger team members. The correct answer is B. A positive influence is, of course, one that leads to improvements. You might say learning English has had a positive influence on my life because it has helped you gain momentum. Remember that one, to gain momentum. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
She is a role model, a positive influence, and has a powerful ability to motivate others.
We're going to be a positive influence to everybody around us.
We're talking about being a positive influence in their communities, making a difference.
Question 15. By introducing this new feature, the company gained an advantage. The correct answer is B, competitive. The adjective form. A competitive advantage is something that allows someone, a person, or even a company, a team, to outperform, to perform better than others. Again, you might say being fluent in English gives you a competitive advantage in today's global world. Do you agree with that? Let's listen to some real-world examples.
It's going to be a competitive advantage for us. And one of the things we decided was
how can we reinvent the office?
Leverage your sources of unfair competitive advantage, but make sure you reinvent yourself before disruption leaves you with no other option but to do so.
What really is a company's most competitive advantage? It's people. We know this.
Congratulations, you did it. You added 60 new phrases to your vocabulary. And if you want me to make another lesson just like this, put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And how well do you know these words? Watch it now.